Today, I'm gonna show you guys how to create this product video explosion shot in After Effects. Before we dive into the After Effects part, let's talk about how to film this shot. I actually did this very quickly. It's super simple to do. So you're gonna need your product, you're gonna need something like a material that can explode up, and then you're also gonna wanna get a clean frame. Let's first start about how we're gonna mount our product. All I did was take this energy drink can, drilled a hole in the bottom, and then used a C-stand and shoved it all the way through to create a nice supporting base. Underneath, I used some tile slate rock that I broke up with a hammer, and then I put that on top of a V-flat board. You're gonna want something that's gonna be strong, that's gonna hold weight, that's also a little bit rigid. Then we're gonna mount it down on all the different sides and have a gap in the center. So using 2 tables works pretty well for this. Once you have that, you're just gonna have your camera up top with another C-stand pointing straight down. And it's as simple as just hitting the board until you get the explosion shot that you want. That's gonna be your first shot. After we get our can explosion shot, what we're gonna need to do is get a clean background. What I wanted to do was, since I got a pile of tile, and I used one of them broken up to get those shards, I took a whole frame clean one because I thought it'd be cool. It makes it look like the can is landing onto the tile and making the tile explode. So I did a clean frame of just a full tile. I just kept the camera in the exact same place, removed the can, and got a shot of that. Lastly, if you want to add a little bit more movement, what you can do is now take an Edelkrone head spinner or some kind of 360-degree spinner and put a skewer into the side of the can and have it spin vertically and capture that. I like to capture it on the same background because when you green screen, it just doesn't give the same look. All the lighting is exactly the same, but I'm going to capture that, and those are the 3 shots I'm going to use. So now, let's dive into After Effects and I'm gonna show you guys how to pull this off. Here is all my shots. I have my can explosion shot right here. Boom, and get this cool shot. Then I also have my background. This is my clean background. I didn't line it up perfectly well, but that's okay because we're gonna create some movement and we're gonna do that by using Photoshop, and I'll explain that. And then lastly, we have our can spin. So our can spin is what we're gonna work with first right here. I got this can spin rotational shot here. We're gonna wanna remove our can from this and the background, and there's plenty of ways to do that, but what I'm going to use, and one of my favorite tools, is Rotoscope. So all we're going to do is go in here, make sure you're on this frame, and I'm going to click on the Rotoscope drag tool brush right up here, double click onto our frame. It's going to take us into the layer. All we're going to do is highlight the can. So I'm going to zoom in here and I'm just going to paint exactly the can. It's not going to be perfect, but we can adjust that in a second. See, pretty good, but I gotta grab up there. And then with something like this, especially when it's this complicated, you're gonna wanna dive over and on this timeline right here, and then make sure that all of your updated brush spots are looking good. For time factor, I'm just gonna pretend like we did that because I've already done this. So we can scrub forward just a little bit just to make sure everything's locked in. This is looking great. And so for a time factor, I'm just gonna skip forward because I've already done this. But what you're gonna wanna do is go through your timeline, let it scrub through at the different points to make sure that you have your outline is still tracking properly. If it starts to get a little wild like this, all you have to do is hold the Alt or Option button and it'll give you the minus brush, and then you're just gonna clean that up so that it doesn't look like that anymore, just to make sure. And then you're just gonna go through your whole timeline. Once you do that, we're gonna press freeze on here, and that's gonna save all of that rotoscope brushing effect onto that product. And then eventually will get you something that looks like this. Once the project is done freezing, you can adjust right here your feather, your shift edge, the reduced chatter. That means how many jaggedies it has when it's trying to guess where the object is. And then what I like to also use is decontamination and extend where smooth, and then just bring this up a little bit, and that kind of cleans up the edge and the edge color a little bit. Don't do too much, otherwise it's gonna make your product look way too soft, but that is a simple way to do it. Typically I'll do maybe like 10, 15 on feather, and then depending on how much is bleeding over of the product itself. So for example, if I go like this, you know, you're gonna see a lot more edge of the product. Let's see. Well, yep. See, as you can see, it changes right here. A good way to also see what you're pulling off of the product is this. So if I go like this, change the product, or I go like that, as you can see, it's changing it when I shift the edge. Feather does the same thing. So you don't want that because now you're getting too much of the background and that. But that's gonna be the first step that you do. And then from there, you'll eventually, when you're adjusting all that, we'll get a layer that looks like this. All right, so we have our can transparent layer now. I just pre-composed it so it's in the center. And what we're gonna do is line it up with our explosion shot, because that's very important. So by turning on our can explosion shot, you can see the difference between the two. Obviously, I raised this up to have it to spin, but we're just going to make sure that it is as close as possible so that when we do that transition from the flip, it lands right on there. And what I'm gonna do is go all the way to the flip right here. And then I'm going to go to T for opacity, scale this down so I can see. And then I'm gonna go to our scale, adjust this, and I'm gonna get in a little bit closer here and just make sure everything lines up relatively good. So scale is S, R is rotation. All right, that's better. So I'm gonna bring the opacity back up and bam. Now we have our can on the size that we want, and we're gonna work on the movement next. But first we gotta clean up our background. So we're gonna get rid of this explosion shot for right now, and we're gonna bring on our background, and we're going to get rid of our can transparent. So I got our can transparent right. We need to work on this background. So there's a few things that we're gonna do is we're going to pre-compose this and save this as a Photoshop layer. And we're gonna take this background and make it larger for scale. And then we're also going to clean it all up, these edges and stuff like that. It's very easy to do in Photoshop, and I'm gonna show you guys right now. So BG is what we're gonna call it, render, boom. Super fast to do that. And then we're gonna bring it into Photoshop. Here's my original one that I did. Not a big deal. So we're just gonna drag this in. I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. So let's first clean up these edges just by going like that, because that edge is ugly. We go generative fill, generate. Now for something like this, usually I'm saying that you want a transparent or PNG because we're gonna cover this. But since this is literally just a stationary frame grab for our ending, we can literally save this as, oh, give me a little flower, that's interesting. We can save this as a JPEG. So I'm just gonna clean that up. I'm gonna clean this up real fast. You can also use the spot clone tool if you want to, which makes it super easy. But the main thing is we just wanna clean this up a little bit. And then the next most important thing is that we're gonna make this frame actually bigger, and you're gonna see why in a second. So generative fill, as you can see, if I combine all these together, this is what it cleaned up. It's looking good. It's not perfect. They're a little bit darker. We can always adjust that by going to image adjustments curves just to blend them a little bit better. All right, so that's look. We don't want it to be too dark. Something like that. That's a little bit better. Doesn't have to be perfect because this is gonna be a pretty fast shot and a lot of it's gonna be blurred out. So now what we wanna do is make our canvas larger, and that's very important. So we're gonna go to image canvas size. And all I do is, rule of thumb is just to double these. So this is 4K vertical. This is 2200. We're gonna make this 4400. 4400. Oops, one more. And then we're gonna get this one, we're just gonna round it up and make this 8000. And that will allow us to create a better size when we're doing the movement for the spin shot, make it look like it's falling. So I'll just take a side like this. Sometimes generative fill can get a little funky. Not a big deal though. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it takes that actual, actual texture and lighting. And then from there we can fix everything in post. All right, so eventually you're gonna get a background that looks like this, and we're gonna save this as a JPEG. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is gonna be moving fast and have a lot of blur to it, but we're gonna say JPEG like this, and then say save as. After Effects will say new After Effects, new background, new BG, beautiful. And we're just gonna bring that back into After Effects, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Going like this, going to here. You gotta remember which hard drive. And then just dragging this new background right into the timeline. And now, as you can see, we have a lot more space to play with once it goes, and that's gonna be important for our movement, but we're gonna save it exactly how it is right now because that matches the other background. I'm gonna bring this below, let me go like this. All right, so now I'm gonna bring our can back on here, which is important, and we're gonna figure out where our can lands. So right now our can lands right there. Great, I'm going to go onto our background because we're gonna create that movement now, and I'm gonna go scale, and I'm gonna push scale. And then I'm going to go all the way to where our can starts, which is right here. And then I'm gonna scale this all the way out until it goes to the edge, which is right about there. Now, as you can see, as this thing begins to move, which we might just start it here instead, just because the can doesn't move yet. We'll trim this. All right, so we're gonna select these two upper layers are transparent in our new background now that we've scaled and positioned them. And we're gonna go to pre-compose and just put them together because now we can use them to have the same timing. It makes it super easy. So I'm gonna go to time, enable time remapping. And then now we're gonna figure out where it ends. Right there. And we're gonna put a key point right there. We're gonna take these two key points and we're gonna drag them way closer to this key point. Make sure this starts looking good. So we're gonna make that a little bit faster. And then from there, what we wanna do is, because that's a pretty good speed right there, I want this to be a fast movement, is we're gonna go to easy ease in, and it's just gonna smooth out that land. And we're gonna go easy ease out, and that's gonna smooth out that takeoff to give us something more like boom, like that. So that's looking all good. And now we wanna make this background look a little bit more realistic. So we wanna make the background a little bit more realistic, and the way that we're gonna do that is add some blur to it. Because if you think about it, the farther away you're from something and you're focused on your product, the blurrier the background is, and then it should get less blurry as we get closer. And the way that we can do that is just click on our background, go to Gaussian blur, and we're going to see where it lands again, which is right there. And we're going to open this up so you guys can see that better. But what we're going to do is go to Effects, Gaussian blur, blurriness, click it, the stopwatch that makes the keyframe right there, and we're going to leave that at 0 right there. But then we're gonna go all the way up to the top and we're gonna go blur, blur, blur. And we're gonna crank that up a good amount so it kind of cleans up the background like I was telling you guys. But see, now it's blurrier, and as it gets closer, everything starts to come into more focus, which in turn makes it look a little bit more realistic. So that's important right there. And then the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to create a little bit more movement. So what we're gonna do is actually take this product right here, and we're going to save where it lands, which is right there. Put that. You can always adjust these, and we're going to click on our product, go to scale, click on that, and then bring it all the way up here, and then make it actually bigger. So it looks like it's kind of popping out of frame first, and then it's going to land. So like that. I'll go back to that one real fast, and we're also going to adjust the position because now I can see that it's not completely center, which is fine. But I just want to make sure, and the way you can check if things are complete center is you just click on this tab right here, go to proportional grid, and definitely not completely center, but that's okay. So it'll start center and then kind of land off a little bit, but we have to have it land off because that's where I mounted the landing hit. So now it should have more of a dropping down effect. I'm going to ease these in, keyframe, easy ease in. Gonna do the same thing with scale, keyframe, easy ease in, and then easy ease out. But essentially what we're doing is just creating more of that movement now. That's should in turn get us something that looks much better. See how it's kind of like landing, boom. Yeah, I like that a lot. And from there, what we're gonna do is we need to add blur to our can, and that's easy. Same thing, we're just gonna do directional blur now. Directional blur. And I'm gonna make sure that it's when it starts to move, because I do have a pretty big S-curve on here, so I'm gonna hit the direction's fine because it's pointing this way. The way to use this is wherever this is kind of pointing is where that blur is going to create. And if you're whipping around this way, top to bottom, then having the line go vertical makes more sense. If your movement is more like this, then you would want to go to like a 90 degree, but this is perfect. What we're going to do is click on this, and then we're going to see right when it starts to flip and start to blur it like that, and probably even more blur as it gets to this. And then boom, and that should help a little bit with the transition. We can also turn on the motion blur since we did put some key points in there. And that should now get us something that looks like this. Yeah, it's gonna work perfectly. Love it. I know it's still blurry right there, but that doesn't matter because we're gonna cut from there. And then lastly, what I wanna do is, as you can see, there is this dark spot here. This is actually from the rod when we're using the spinning motor. And that's just an easy fix. Easy is a little bit of a word, but this will teach you guys how to do the next part and remove the rod for the explosion shot. So I can see this, I'm gonna turn off the transparency, turn on the proportional grid, and all we're gonna do to create this, to clean this up, as you can see, see the light blocks right here because of that, is we're gonna duplicate our layer. And this is one of my favorite tricks for masking and fixing things. We're gonna create a mask on this top layer, right where the issue is, like this. And then what we're gonna do is, this is the key importance of mask. So right here, you can see you can select these different dots, and then there's also an option where if you re-click mask one, now they're all solid, and then we can move them. We're gonna move them along a clean piece of the line, which is right here. We're gonna leave it there. Now the mask is only selecting this, as you can see, and we're just gonna take mask path, click on that, and then we're also gonna go to P for position of the product, and we're gonna move that mask piece right onto that part. So now we just gotta adjust a little bit, but now you got something like that. So now that cleans it up. But since the product is moving, we're gonna have to do it for the whole product. It takes a second. I'll show you guys how to do a few of them, and then I'm gonna speed forward, and then you can do the rest.
Easy.
So just moving the position tool, we can adjust this like so, just to keep that line. Again, it's not gonna be perfect because as things go up, obviously we're grabbing from down here and it's gonna spin and change. But for the most part, we can get this to pretty much, especially once the product starts moving, pretty much take care of most of our issue. So like, as you can see, as we get to here, then we're gonna have to move the mask off like that for a second because it's gonna get too funky where the block is. That's okay. So that should be fine all the way up until that point. We need to clean that up a little bit more. So see, that's why we're gonna bring back out the mask. Make sure I select here. Bring that back in. There we go. I think we can still use it up until right there. See, my mask started coming off, but that's okay. And then once it comes to here, it's gonna come back on right around there. So we're gonna bring this back in. We need to find the edge because now see it's all changed from our angle. Find the edge like that, and then we can bring this position back in here. So that's our mask. It's not perfect, but once we go back to this, then it shouldn't, once we go back to this, it shouldn't show up with all that movement. So you can even do it for like a light like this if you want to, but this is just a quick, dirty, easy way to fix that little dark spot right there. Much better now, right? Sneaky, sneaky. But we're gonna use that same concept for now when we do our explosion. So we have our can explosion and we're gonna put it here. We're gonna figure out where our landing is, which is boom. And then we're gonna I'm gonna turn on our can explosion shot. So now what we're gonna do is line this up and we need to figure it out. So let me bring this shot in. It kind of starts right there. So I'm gonna go to time remapping, enable time remapping, make a key point here because that's where I want it to start. And then where does it explode to? Right there is probably where we want our slowing down spot. So we make another key point right there. And then I'm just going to take our ending, which is right here. I'm gonna take these two keyframes and drag them closer. So that's getting there, just like that. Maybe a little bit closer. Now I'm gonna keyframe easy ease in this to smooth it out. And then that's kind of getting closer to what we need. We might have to adjust some things, but let's just watch this through to see what it looks like. That's looking pretty good. Problem is our can is landing way earlier, so just so that that movement kind of blends a little bit. See, now that's better because otherwise you could see that jump before. At least that looks like it's landing in there now. I'm happy with that. So let's go on to removing this pole. Now this part's actually pretty easy, and it's similar to the technique that we just did for the can. All I'm gonna do is we're gonna actually take 2 masks to do this one, because I've already done this, but Command Duplicate, which is Command D, and we're going to go right up onto this pole right here, and we're gonna make a mask around it. Oops, it's a little bit harder to do this so you guys can see, but we're gonna make a mask like this. I'm gonna do kind of a sloppy one right now, and then slowly go off to the sides like this. I don't want to take too much away from the product. And then I think if I'm looking at these two, there's a lot bigger chunks here, smaller chunks here. I'm gonna take from this side. So we're gonna do what we did before, which is just take our mask and go like this. Make sure that all the dots are selected, and just hold shift and slide it over until you get like a clean spot that you want, which is maybe something right here. And then we're just going to take the position tool, and we are going to move it right over the top like that. Now obviously that's an obvious line right there, as you can see. But what we can do, let me adjust a little bit back here. What we can do is we need to feather this, but we don't want to feather the whole thing, because otherwise that's going to go into the can and start changing the can, because there's no can right here, right? So what we do is we can hold down the pen tool and go down the mask feather tool, click back on our frame, and we're going to make 2 spots right here, and click here and here to protect that top part, and then 2 more spots like this. And then we're just going to drag the sides out. See how the feather right here, this is the feather, is not affecting the other spot. But we can go like that. I don't want to go too far, because that's going to show the pole. So far, not bad. I think I want to change my mask over a little bit more though. So we're going to select our mask by going like this. I'm going to move it over just a little bit more, and then we can position a little bit more. I wasn't really happy with how much I could feather right there. I was starting to feather into the pole. No. And going back to this tool, just going to grab a little bit bigger of a feather like that. And as you can see right now, obviously that looks very duplicated, so we got to clean that up a little bit more, but it's getting to the point where we need it. So as you can see, right like that. And the problem is all of this part right here is clear, and we have a bunch of rocks because it's taking from right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the layer one more time, and I'm going to bring this one onto the top. I'm just going to bring the pole back up, but that's okay. And we're going to take a clearer spot, a clear spot like this. Boom, 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 boom. And now we're going to have this, and I'm going to just rotate this entire layer. Sorry for my dog. There's somebody watching my baby right now, so I can create this shot for you guys. In position, we're just going to move this right underneath the can. Just so it's clean, and then I'm going to re-clean up this. See if we can grab a little bit wider now, so it's like underneath the can. It's going to grab rocks from different spots, which, you know, makes it a little bit more like, so it doesn't look like we're just duplicating from our side right there. It's going to clean this up a little bit like so, just so it goes around our can. You can even do it nicer if you want to, and then take the same technique, which is the mask feather tool, protect the top, because that's not going to, we can't feather into that, and then grab feathers right here and a feather right here. And that should give us a little bit more of now kind of like that natural like look like that. And then let's see. Let's play it back. We can always adjust some more, but I'm doing this relatively quick for the tutorial's sake. But you can play with this a lot to create that look that you're going for. Look at that. I honestly, you're not gonna, people are rarely gonna be staring down right there, and it still gets the effect that you're going for. And in the end, you guys, you get something that looks like this. And again, you can spend a lot more time on this to get it, but I think this is pretty cool. It gives you like a really cool boom, and then like you're exploding it. Timing wise, I'm gonna play around with a little bit more so I can get something that I like, but this is the essentials for you guys. And then from everything else, you can make it to anything that you want. And that is how you create this really simple cool explosion shot. All right, guys, that is it for this tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something and that you can go and take this and create some awesome product video shots of your own. Until next time, I'm Austin, and have a great day.